This might be the most controversial video I've ever made. Because today, I'm exposing a type of Vegas scam you've probably never even considered, let alone heard about. If you've been to Vegas recently and noticed that the same places you once loved for great customer service now seem to go out of their way to treat you poorly, this is why. It's a scam so devious, yet so brilliant from a business standpoint that the only word to describe it is shocking. Forget resort fees and overpriced drinks. The real scam starts before you even arrive. For decades, casinos have wanted to profile every single guest, but only now do they finally have the tools to pull it off. With new AI technology, background checks and guest histories can be analyzed in seconds. By the time you book a room, you've already been flagged as either high potential or low potential. That means before you ever step foot inside, someone has already decided whether you'll be treated like royalty, free upgrades, VIP perks, even limos waiting at the airport, or treated like you don't matter at all. Cold service, no perks, and every interaction costing you more. And this isn't just some wild conspiracy. My friends and I, both current and former Vegas employees, have seen the signs. We've been told to give extra attention to certain guests, to make sure their every need is met, sometimes even before they've ever set foot in that resort. Guests we had no prior record of suddenly treated like kings. But now, we don't just have speculation. I've got a half confession from an anonymous casino host about how it all really works. You'll hear that at the end of this video. But first, I want to share the stories, first-hand experiences that show exactly why this is the biggest scam Vegas has ever pulled and why it could only happen now with AI at the center of it all. In fact, you'll see two families who booked the exact same accommodations but were treated completely differently. The only obvious difference between them? Their net worth. And the results will absolutely blow your mind. So instead of me just telling you, let's hear it directly from the people who lived it.
Story number 1. Ignored, overcharged, and lied to. Our family Vegas nightmare. I thought this was going to be the trip of a lifetime. My wife and I saved up for over a year to take our kids to Vegas, not for wild parties or gambling, but to show them the lights, the fountains, the magic of the Strip. I remembered how friendly the service had been years ago when I last visited, so I booked directly with one of the big casino hotels, thinking it would make things simple and stress-free. When we arrived, though, something felt off immediately. At check-in, the line was long, but we noticed a few people being whisked out and taken straight to the front desk. We figured maybe they were VIPs. Fine. But when it was finally our turn, the woman behind the counter barely looked at us. She didn't smile, didn't welcome us, nothing. She tapped away at her computer, slid our keys across the counter, and said, "You're in Tower B, floor 7. That was it. I asked if there was any chance of a strip view room, since we'd booked the same category as our friends had before, and they'd gotten one. She didn't even check, just shook her head and said, "All booked." Later, I found out that wasn't true. Our room was facing the parking garage. The carpet looked worn, and when we called for extra towels, they didn't show up until the next morning. The mini fridge was empty, and there wasn't even bottled water waiting, something I thought was standard. I brushed it off, thinking maybe service had slipped a little since my last trip. But it kept getting worse. Down at the pool, we tried to order drinks, but it felt like we were invisible. Servers walked past us half a dozen times before finally stopping, and when we ordered sodas for the kids and a cocktail for me, it took nearly 30 minutes to arrive. Meanwhile, the people next to us, a well-dressed couple, got service instantly. They even had food delivered poolside without waiting. At dinner, the waiter barely checked on us. We asked for water refills, and they came after the check had already been dropped. Even the valet seemed indifferent when we asked about parking. Everywhere we went, it felt like we weren't wanted there, like the staff had already decided we weren't worth their time. The breaking point was on our second night. My wife called down to housekeeping because the bathroom sink was clogged and the sheets hadn't been changed. The woman on the phone said someone would come right up. Nobody ever did. We ended up fixing the sink ourselves with the little plunger from the bathroom. By the end of the trip, I realized something that made my stomach turn. Vegas didn't feel like it used to. It didn't feel like a place that wanted us or families like ours anymore. It felt like the entire resort was built to cater only to a certain kind of guest, the kind with deeper pockets, higher status, whatever it is they're looking for. We had booked directly with the hotel, same as anyone else. We weren't asking for freebies or comps, just decent service. Instead, we got treated like background noise, like we didn't belong there. As we drove out of town, I told my wife, this wasn't the Vegas I remembered. I don't think they even want people like us here anymore. And the sad part is, I think I was right.
And if you thought that was bad, just wait. Because the next story shows the exact opposite side of the coin. This isn't about someone getting ignored or brushed aside. This is about a family who booked at the same hotel and the same type of room, but their treatment was night and day. From limos at the airport to champagne waiting in the room, the difference is shocking. By the way, if you're enjoying these insider confessions, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below with your own Vegas experiences, because trust me, you're going to want to weigh in after hearing this next one. Story number 2. Same hotel, same room, treated like absolute royalty. I still remember the first time we visited Las Vegas. My wife and I had never been before, and we thought it would just be a fun stop on a longer US trip. We weren't high rollers, we weren't celebrities, just a well-off family from Asia, traveling with our teenage kids and my mother. We booked our stay directly through the hotel's website. Nothing fancy, just a pair of connecting suites so the kids and grandma could have their own space. That was it. No special notes, no VIP membership, nothing. But the moment we landed at McCarran, things felt different. Instead of waiting in the taxi line like everyone else, a chauffeur holding a sign with our name on it was standing right at the exit. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. But no, he knew our names, confirmed our reservation, and guided us straight into a black stretch SUV. Inside, bottled water and cold towels were waiting. My wife and I exchanged confused glances, but the kids were already giggling in the back seat like they were in a movie. When we pulled up to the hotel, we didn't go through the main entrance. The driver took us around to a private drop-off area. A hotel manager was literally waiting outside to greet us by name. We didn't even touch our bags. They were whisked away before we stepped through the door. And then came the check-in. Or rather, there wasn't one. Instead of standing in line with the dozens of families we saw crowded around the front desk, we were led into a quiet lounge with plush chairs, free champagne, and a concierge who handled everything while we sat back. "Your suites are ready," the concierge said with a smile. "We've taken the liberty to upgrading you to our premium level at no extra charge." Upgrades? Champagne? VIP lounge? My kids were wide-eyed, my wife speechless. We hadn't asked for any of this. When we finally made it upstairs, the shock continued. On the dining table sat a welcome spread, a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, chocolate-dipped strawberries, and even small gifts for the kids, branded headphones and plush toys with the hotel's logo. My mother nearly cried when she saw the handwritten note waiting for her. "We're honored to have you and your family with us." Over the course of the week, the treatment never let up. At the pool, servers rushed over before we could even sit down. At restaurants, our tables were always waiting. And every single time we called the front desk, our requests were answered in minutes. At one point, my wife asked a staff member why we were being treated so well. She just smiled politely and said, "You're very valued guests." No explanation, no detail, but her tone made it clear. She knew something we didn't. It wasn't until much later, after talking to a few Vegas employees off the record, that the pieces started to click. Somehow, before we even set foot in the city, the hotel already knew who we were. They knew the business we owned back home. They knew our spending habits, and they had flagged us as high potential. And that's when it hit me. While we were sipping champagne and enjoying upgrades, there were probably other families who had booked the exact same rooms, standing in line downstairs, waiting hours, and being treated like nothing. It was surreal. On one hand, we were grateful for the incredible hospitality. On the other, I couldn't help but feel guilty. It wasn't fair. We hadn't earned this treatment by being better guests. The only difference was that someone, somewhere, had already decided
We were worth it. And that's the scam Vegas doesn't want you to see.
Story number 3. I worked the front desk. Here's how we really decide who gets treated well. I used to work at the front desk of one of the big-name resorts on the Strip. People think our job was just checking guests in, handing out keys, and answering questions. But behind the scenes, it was something completely different, something most guests would be furious to know. The truth is, by the time you step up to the counter, your fate has already been decided. I can't say exactly how the system works, but let's just say our computer screens weren't just showing us your reservation details. We'd get little notes, flags, instructions, things like, handle this couple with extra care. VIP status, offer upgrades where possible. Keep interactions brief. Do not offer comps. Sometimes I'd get alerts before I even saw the guest's face. A name would pop up and boom, I already knew I had to roll out the red carpet or quietly brush them aside. One moment that really stuck with me was when 2 families checked in, back to back. Both had booked identical suites, both had kids in tow, but for one family, I got a note that said, high value, provide complimentary upgrade if available. The other, just a generic tag, nothing special. So what happened? The first family got upgraded to a strip view suite with champagne waiting for them. I was instructed to escort them personally. The second family, I handed them their keys, gave the generic speech about amenities, and sent them on their way. And here's the kicker. Neither family had ever stayed at our hotel before. None of this was about loyalty points or player cards. It was something deeper, something that made us, the employees, wonder how much the hotel already knew. I'd sometimes ask my manager why certain guests got flagged. All they'd ever say was, it's based on potential. Potential for what? Spending, gambling, networking? Nobody gave us answers. We just followed the notes. What made it worse was watching how fast staff attitudes shifted. A priority guest would call the desk, and suddenly the entire team was scrambling to make things happen. A low-value guest would call, and suddenly everyone was busy. It got to the point where I could predict someone's entire Vegas experience just by the little tag next to their name. If you were flagged high value, your trip was going to feel like a dream. If you weren't, you'd probably leave wondering why everything felt a little colder, a little less magical, and a lot more expensive. And the sad part? Most guests never even realized it was happening. So when people tell me Vegas just doesn't feel the same anymore, I believe them. It's not in your head. It's not bad luck. It's the system deciding, before you even arrive, whether you matter. And once that label is on your name, it doesn't come off.
Story 4. The rooms don't lie. Housekeeping knows who Vegas really cares about. I worked as a housekeeper in one of the biggest casino hotels on the Strip for nearly a decade. And let me tell you, if you really want to know who matters in Vegas and who doesn't, don't look at the casino floor, look at the hotel rooms. Because for us housekeepers, the instructions were always clear. Some rooms deserved extra everything, and others got the bare minimum. Let me explain. On a normal shift, I'd be assigned a list of rooms to clean, but certain rooms would have little stars or notes next to them. That was our code. It meant these weren't just regular guests, they were priority. And priority meant treat the room like a shrine. For those rooms, we'd double up the bottled water, leave extra toiletries, sometimes even drop in complimentary snacks or fruit trays. If anything in the room looked even slightly worn, a towel, a robe, even a pen, we replaced it with brand new. Managers would walk through behind us, inspecting, making sure it was perfect. Now, compare that to the non-priority rooms. Those got the absolute basics. No extras, no upgrades, nothing. If the minibar wasn't fully restocked, nobody cared. If the carpet looked a little worn, ah well. Sometimes we weren't even told to do turn-down service for those rooms. I remember once, Two families checked in the same day, same type of suite. The first suite was priority. I spent over an hour in there making everything shine, laying chocolates on the pillows, and even arranging the kids' stuffed animals in a playful little setup. The second suite, same exact price, same floor plan. I was told to do it quick. No extras, no chocolates, just a rushed turnover. The difference was night and day. And the crazy part? Neither family had any idea. They both thought they were getting the full Vegas experience, but one was clearly being treated like gold, while the other was just tolerated. Sometimes I'd overhear guests in the hallways or elevators saying things like, "Wow, the hotel staff here is amazing," while another family would be grumbling about slow service or missed requests. And I'd think to myself, it's not the hotel, it's the list. Because behind the scenes, that's all it ever was. A list. Names flagged as worth it or not worth it. And all of us, from housekeepers to servers to managers, were expected to follow it. It bothered me more than I can explain. Guests were paying the same money, sometimes even more, but the treatment they received wasn't based on what they booked. It was based on what the system predicted about their wallets. So the next time you walk into a Vegas hotel room and think, "Wow, they really went the extra mile for me," or on the flip side, "Why does this feel so bare bones?" just know it probably wasn't an accident. It was planned. And trust me, the housekeepers always know who matters and who doesn't.
And now for our final story, the bombshell anonymous casino host confession that confirms everyone's suspicions. Story number 5, the casino host confession that changes everything. I don't usually talk about this stuff. Even now, I'm not going to say my name or which casino I worked for, because if I did, I'd be blacklisted in this town overnight. But after years of watching it happen, I can't keep quiet anymore. I was a casino host on the Strip. My job was simple on paper: keep the players happy, make sure the big spenders never leave, and give out comps when necessary. But behind the scenes, there was one unspoken rule that guided everything we did. Some guests matter, most don't. And the decision about who mattered? That was made long before they ever set foot in the casino. Here's what I mean. Every time a reservation came in, our system would flag the guest. Sometimes the notes were subtle, potential player. Sometimes they were blunt, do not extend offers. And sometimes they lit up like a Christmas tree. High value, VIP, treat as priority. That label decided everything. If you were high value, you'd never wait in the line. You'd get limo service from the airport, upgrades without asking, and a host like me personally checking in on you. Drinks flowed, meals were comped, and if you lost money, we found ways to make you feel like a winner anyway. But if you weren't flagged, forget it. You could spend days in the casino, drop thousands of dollars, and nobody would so much as comp you a buffet. You'd feel invisible. And that wasn't bad luck. That was intentional. The craziest part is some of the people we rolled out the red carpet for had never even been to Vegas before. They didn't have a player's card, no loyalty history, nothing. But still, before they even arrived, we already knew they were worth hundreds of millions back home. One time, I asked my manager straight up, "How do we even know this stuff?" He just smirked and said, "Don't worry about it, just do your job." That was the moment it clicked for me. This wasn't random. The hotels were digging deep. Background checks, financial data, business records, maybe even AI systems pulling it all together. However they did it, they knew who had money and who didn't instantly. And once you were labeled, that was your Vegas experience, heaven or hell, red carpet or cold shoulder. Here's what should scare people the most. It's not about how much you actually spend. I've seen low-value guests gamble all night and lose way more than a so-called VIP. Didn't matter. The label was the label. The system had decided who was worth it, and we just followed orders. That's why Vegas feels different now. Back in the old days, anyone could get lucky. Flash a little cash, play long enough, and you'd catch a host's eye. You'd get comps, attention, maybe even a free room if you played it right. But now, the decisions are already made, silently,
before you even book your flight. And here's the truth nobody in the industry wants to admit. Vegas doesn't want regular guests anymore. The system has made it crystal clear. If you're not worth millions, you're just background noise. So next time you walk through those glittering doors and wonder why the magic feels gone, it's because it is. You've already been judged. You've already been sorted. And unless the system has flagged you as high value, Vegas isn't rolling out the red carpet. They're shutting the door.
So, there you have it. The biggest scam in Las Vegas isn't the resort fees or the $25 cocktails or the endless slot machines designed to drain your wallet. The real scam is happening silently, behind the scenes, before you even set foot in the city. AI systems, background checks, secret notes on your reservation, they've already decided who you are, what you're worth, and how you'll be treated. And the worst part? There's nothing you can do about it. That's why Vegas feels colder now. That's why so many people walk away saying it just isn't like it used to be, because it's not. Unless you're flagged as high value, you're just another name on a list they've already written off. But now you know the truth. If you've ever felt like you were treated unfairly in Vegas, ignored, overcharged, or just plain disrespected, drop a comment down below and share your story. I want to hear from you. And if you found this video eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because trust me, we're only scratching the surface of what's really happening in Las Vegas. If you want to see firsthand recorded interviews of people back in the 1970s and their experience of Las Vegas, back when the mob ran things, but people's love for Vegas was at an all-time high, click this video right here and let your imagination run wild about how much better Vegas could be today if it was like how it was back then. This has been Las Vegas Confessions, and as always, thanks for watching.